Hi everyone, Stepan here. I'm gonna play another training game, 15 plus 10. So yesterday my opponent, what I learned later, slightly messed up an opening system that he probably learned but then couldn't remember properly, so the game finished quite quickly and it was very short. Today I hope to get a normal game. Okay, I have white. Which is good for a change. I usually have black. Let's see if the board is okay. The board should be okay. My opponent plays the French. I'm going to play the Tarash again, unless he does something weird. Okay. Now, in the last game, my opponent played bishop e7 and I played c3. Now we are going to have a normal closed Tarash, which is good. And I'll try not to waste any time in the opening if I know the moves. So now knight c6, knight e2 is normal. If queen b6, then knight f3. If cd, then cd. If f6, then I take. Now f6 probably. And yes, now I can take on or play bishop f4. Knight f4, excuse me. I've played both. It's not that I know both, but I cannot decide what to do here. Because if knight f4, then the game gets very messy. I think I'll just take. I don't want to go into those crazy lines now. And castles. And now bishop d6 is normal. Knight f3 is normal. And then if he plays queen c7, then h3. If he castles, then bishop f4. This is still theory. What did I want to do here? I could have... Yeah, I think I could have played bishop f4 on the last turn. Because now I'm... Maybe I messed up the move order a bit. But I don't think I have. I'm just trying to remember. Okay, I'll continue the normal way. I'll just play knight c3 here. And even though this seems to waste time, I'm actually threatening knight b5 here, which would be very pleasant. Not only because I get the bishop pair, but most importantly because I would get more control over the e5 square. So he has to drop something back. In either case, it's a concession. Okay, so the camera is okay. So finally I have a normal game in which we are playing theory and in which my opponent is not blundering in the opening and I'm not blundering in the opening. So since I played pawn to h3, I can safely play bishop e3. His only strategic aim should be to play e5, and I need to control the e4 square and start the kingside attack. I want to play rook e1, rook c1, probably rook c1 first to be able to challenge the queen, pin the knight. I'm not sure, I mean, one of the main patterns in these lines with bishop d6 is bishop to f4, and then it gets very messy because black often gets to play rook takes f3. And the idea behind rook takes f3 is firstly to support e5, and secondly to weaken d4, thirdly to give him ideas like knight h5, knight f4. So for example, knight h5 here, followed by rook takes f3, and then knight f4. Okay, for the moment I'll just play rook c1 because my knight is still defended by the queen. So this only really works if I have to take with the g-pawn. The benefit of this move is that now if knight b4 comes, I have bishop b1 without consequences. And I think I wasted no time in the opening. I'm actually ahead on the clock and I have more than 15 minutes. So I can think in the middle game, which we are now entering. Again, I have an isolated queen's pawn. 2 games as white against the Tarash, and 2 games with an IQP. But this is a bit more favorable because I actually have the queens on the board. I'm sorry, I may sneeze. But throughout the game, be aware of that warning. Okay, he's trying to support e5. For the moment, that doesn't work, because he would have to give up his dark squared bishop. So I'll just play rook e1. Because if he gives up his knight, then I have knight takes d5. And also rook e1 is a very normal move. Now he has to find a way to improve, and if e5 doesn't work, then I'm not sure what he does. Yeah, also on knight b4, I can take simply knight d5. Unless he gives up the queen on c1, then queen takes c1 and knight takes d3, but I can take with the bishop. And also throw in knight takes f6. So, yeah. You should probably move the queen away. This pin is very annoying. But if he does move the queen away, then maybe, if for example queen b8, then maybe knight a4, knight c5 is quite good. Or knight a4, knight b6 if he doesn't play b5. If he plays b5, then knight c5. This is the first move I don't really understand. So I will just restrict his pieces a bit to make sure. Wait. Can I play bishop g5 here? I mean, it's a very simple threat. What does he do against bishop g5? Bishop g5, he has to move the queen. Well, he doesn't really have to move the queen. I don't think I have enough pressure on e8. Maybe it would work if my rooks were doubled. So my idea was bishop g5, and then black does nothing, I take on f6, he takes with the g-pawn, and I take on d5, and if pawn takes rook, and that happens if he takes with the rook, but he can take with the g-pawn, so it doesn't work yet. So I should consider doubling my rooks, but then again rook e2 seems quite strange. Okay, let's see what he does. I'm pretty sure he is planning to play b5 at some point, and if he plays knight a5 here, it doesn't work, so I plan to play b4 to make sure he never has knight a5. I don't think bishop g5 works just yet. If I had rooks on e2 and e1, then it would work. Klegmeister. I don't know what Kleg means. Kleg. Meister is master in German, but Kleg. What's Kleg? I don't think I've ever heard the word Kleg. Now it does work, because he moved the G pawn. What's his plan after bishop G5? Knight H5? He could play Knight H5, but then bishop H6. I'll play it because it creates a strong threat. I have to be aware of Knight H5 and then if bishop H6, Rook F3. So I think on Knight H5, if he plays Knight H5, I'm going to take a long time thinking if that exchange sack is too strong or not. Okay. Okay. But I grab the exchange back. Bishop F6. If he plays bishop C1, I play queen C1. And he plays rook takes F6 and I play knight D5. So that works. Yes, I think it works. Don't get me wrong, I may have blundered, but I think my tactic just worked. Because his rook is pinned on E8. He cannot take on C1. He has to take on F6, then I still take on D5. It works. Yes, I think it works. I don't think I messed it up. Yes. Whew. It works. I get the exchange back and I'm a pawn up. Oh, I finally found a good tactic. I'm very happy. Okay, I'm finally playing a good game. Yes. Okay, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to jinx it. But bishop G5 was a tricky move. And since he played G6, it just works. Because there are too many tactics going on in the position. I don't know what he does. He probably plays queen f7 or queen g7. There are no other moves, otherwise he loses the exchange. The second one. Yeah, g6 was a blunder. Otherwise bishop g5 doesn't work. Yeah. I think he had to do that. Okay, now my pawn is double attacked, so I have to be a bit careful. I was planning to play queen c5, which defends my pawn and also prevents e5, which he has to play, and also prevents b6 or b5 because I attack the knight still. So I'll just play that quickly. I think it has to be a good move because he wants to play e5. If he doesn't, his bishop is dead. And if I can play knight e5, then his bishop is dead for the rest of the game. Because it's not easy to develop it. I'm happy. I won a pawn tactically. Finally, something good tactical about my game. Usually when someone mentions tactics and my games in the same sentence, or me and tactics in the same sentence, it's bad. I still have a big time advantage, almost 5 minutes, or more than 5 minutes. So I should concentrate and try to play well. I can still, of course, lose or draw or anything, or blunder. I hope I don't. The reason why I couldn't blockade with knight e5 straight away is knight d4. If you can hear squealing, squeaking noises, my dog has this new raccoon toy, and there's a squeaky thing in it, and then she's quite polite though. She doesn't do it all the time, and when you say stop, she stops, but she's not in the room now, so I don't want to go out and tell her to stop. This could actually be the perfect isolated queen's pawn position, because my bishop is better than his. I'm securely controlling the e5 square, and he doesn't have a blockade on d5. I think he should probably try to play knight e7, knight d5 in this position, and then play b6. So knight e7 to knight d5, and then b6 is defended by the knight, and then bishop b7. The question is, though, in the meantime, what do I do? Because I have many things I could do in the meantime. That may just be too slow, but I would definitely consider it if I was black. Okay, he just puts pressure on the pawn. Why didn't I consider that? Yeah, now I don't have knight e5. Why didn't I consider this? Can I defend with rook e4? That seems very awkward. I didn't see rook d8. I mean, I did see it, I just didn't think it would create so much trouble. Maybe I can play bishop c4. Because on bishop c4 he plays knight d4, knight d4, if queen d4, then queen d4, then rook d4, then bishop e6, then bishop e6, then rook e6, then rook e2, and rook b6, and I'm a clean pawn ahead. And if bishop c4, knight d4, knight d4, rook d4, then bishop e6, bishop e6, rook e6. But he has rook d1 check first, so I would lose. So bishop c4 doesn't really work. Wait, bishop c4, knight d4. Knight d4, he has to play rook d4. No, but then my bishop is, his bishop is hanging on c8, so it does work. So bishop c8, if knight d4, then knight d4. So knight d4, knight d4. If rook d4, then queen c8. And if queen d4, then queen d4 and rook d4 and bishop e6 and bishop e6 and and rook e6 and rook e2 and rook b6. So it does work. I had to also prevent rook to d5. Okay, so he has to take with the queen. That's clear. If rook takes, I just take on c8. And after queen takes, bishop takes. We get the line I calculated. I'd actually calculated correctly. Now he has to play rook d2. What is he thinking about? He has to take. And now rook d2, rook b6. And we have the line on the board. Now, I'm just winning. I think I'm just winning because he has to remain passive and my king is faster to get in. He of course has to play rook d7 here. And now my king gets in. Okay, rook endgames are very easy to mess up. So I have to make sure I don't mess them up. I believe king g4 is correct because if he plays h6, I take on g6. If he doesn't play h6, I play king g5. And that's going to be very annoying for him. And now he wants to go rook d2 after king f7, king c7. So I have to be slightly careful. So he wants to play king c7. If I play rook f6, he plays rook d2 actually. So I don't play king f6, rook f6. Well, maybe I do, because rook f6, rook d2, I have b4, rook f6, rook d2, b4. If rook f6, king e7, then I play rook f3. Okay, I like it. I like it. Okay, now he doesn't have rook d2 anymore. And he doesn't have h6. And my king is just coming in. I think I'm going to win this. I think he doesn't have a way to defend because his king is too far away from the king side and my king is too good. And he doesn't have any threats because I have rook f3, just defending my pawn on a3. Of course, the king and pawn is completely lost for black. Okay, now my king is coming in. I don't think he has any mate threats here. I can safely play king h6. I mean, pawn up and much better king, and 7 minutes ahead on the clock. This has to be a winning position, or a strong player would win this position. So let's try to win without any issues. Okay, he starts trading pawns. That's a good idea. When you are down, you want to trade pawns. So I'm going to... I cannot prevent a pawn trade because if I push, he checks. So I take, he should probably check me and then take with the rook. But then I have rook f7 check, which is unfortunate. And trading off this one for this one, well, I can also just play king h6, which is better than rook f7. What does he do if he takes with the pawn? I can just play rook a6 and take the pawn. Yeah, this is just bad. He just loses. What's wrong with rook a6? Rook a6, king d5 check, rook d5 check, king h6. Well, it's a bit messy. So what I'm calculating is rook a6, rook d5, king h6, rook h5, king g7, rook f5, rook a5, rook f2, king h7, rook g2, and then rook a7, king d6, rook g7. And he has a pawn on g6, and I have pawns on a3 and h3. And that I don't think is winning. I don't think I can win this because any rook pawn is just a draw. It's just going to be a draw. So I definitely have to save my f or g or both of those pawns. So I feel like king h6 has to be very natural, because that just locks his rook down. And there will be no checks. So I'm going to play it. If he plays rook to d6, rook to d3, I can of course play rook to f3 and win straight away. And his king can never approach. And if his rook blocks for his king to approach with, for example, rook d6, then I take and take on h7. So I think I'm just in complete control here. Okay, now I'm going to start moving my h-pawn up and break up his pawns. This is the only pawn I want to trade, because it's not really useful. If I keep it on the board, it's going to be a draw. He of course doesn't have rook d5, because I take and take if he checks me. And I want to play h5. I have to break up his pawns, not because I want to trade pawns, but because I want to take on g6 and queen my g-pawn. I don't see any other way to do it. My king is better than his, my rook is better than his, I'm a pawn up. Not even I can mess this up, not on a worse day. So what's his idea? What's the idea? He doesn't have rook e3. He doesn't have rook e4 after h5. He doesn't have rook e5. He doesn't have anything. I'll just play h5. Continue with my plan. And now I just want to queen my g-pawn. Okay. Yeah, this should be very simple now. I don't think there is any chance for him to hold. My pieces are just too strong. Okay, he still wants to threaten some stuff, so I'm not going to allow it. I'll just play king h6 to make sure there is no rook e4 or rook e5 or rook... Well, rook e3 is prevented for now. I'm just locking his rook down completely. And I want to play f4, g4, g5, f4, f5 and g6 and create a passed pawn and win. Okay, let's just continue. The reason why I'm not playing f4 is so that he doesn't have an easy time picking up this pawn and queening. I want to have this one as far up the board as possible, because after I take here, now it's 3 squares to queening. Okay, and he knows that he cannot go for this one, so I'll just continue pushing. He never has time to take on a6, just never. On a3, excuse me. That's interesting. So now his pawn is closer to queening. Okay, I will take some time here. Well, let's see. If I play rook d6, he has to play rook e3 and try to take my a3 pawn. If he doesn't, then I play rook to d4, rook to b4. So I'll just do it. Yeah, rook to d6 I feel has to be correct. Because if I do this and defend, or take this one, then it's over. And if he defends against that by taking here first before I can... Okay, he does that. Yeah, but this is bad. This is bad, because I just defend. Pick up his pawn. Now he loses everything. Yeah, only source of counterplay is now gone. This is it. And now the king is cut off as well. So all I have to do is get my king to g4 before I push f5. Yeah, I'm not going to allow that. I don't want to allow rook d3, which would create counterplay. Just defend like this, and then play king g4 and f5 and no counterplay. Now I don't even have to play king g4 while my rook is behind the pawn. Okay, let's just push. I finally played a good game. I cannot tell you how happy I am. Finally. Okay, this I'm never drawing or losing. This is easy. There's just no way. He has no moves. Which one do I push? I don't know. Let's go here, so that I can take with the king on g6. Because my rook is pinned, so I don't want to lose my rook. Even then I'm probably winning, but... Yeah, I'm just going to queen in 2 moves. I don't know what he's trying to do. Next move, king g8 and f8 equals queen. Okay. I'm really happy, I have to say. I'm very happy. I'm not even going to analyze this one because I'm too happy. So I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I finally played a good game. Bye.